Good morning, and welcome to a beautiful sunrise safari here on Djuma Game Reserve. The sun is just starting to come up to a clear sky for a change, which is going to be wonderful to go and explore without having wind and cold all over the place. My name is Tristan. On camera today I've got VM the Wildebeest, and this is a live safari, which means that you can get hold of us on #SafariLive on Twitter or YouTube chat if you'd like to ask any questions, or if you just want to have a chat about anything really, and we'll try and get through as many as possible. Now, we have plans for the morning. We're not quite sure. VM and I have come out, and we are normally associated with leopards, and so we're probably going to go look for leopards this morning, but we're not 100% sure where to even go and start looking. I think what we're probably going to go do is maybe go head to the southern boundary. I know Hosanna was seen late last night apparently on Gowrie Main, and so maybe it's good to go and find him this morning, or we'll just to scratch around on the southern side. You never know, maybe Shadow and Cubs come up, and then once it gets a little bit brighter and later in the morning, we'll go and check out that new den site for Tundi and see if she's maybe at home. So that's the kind of plan from our side this morning. I think James will be out on foot, so he's just waiting for it to get slightly sort of sunnier before he heads out and about, and then I think we'll have Taylor and Ralph in the Mara joining us a little bit later. So lots happening this morning, and hopefully it will be a good one. Last night seemed to be a lot quieter than it was the previous night. The previous night we had leopards sawing, lions roaring, hyenas whooping, but last night seemed all quiet, and I can sort of tell why it was quiet on the hyena front is because the hyenas were up to no good last night. They were back in camp as they normally are, and we found some remnants of what goes on when our hyena clan moves in to the DRC and decides to go and have a little snoop around, and VM managed to retrieve this morning, so I thought, well, we might as well actually show you guys. And before I drove off I forgot about it, but I've just remembered now. Now I'm trying to find a place to pick it up that I'm not going to get hyena slobber all over me, because, well, there is a tin here, so I'm going to put it over there. This is a cocoa tin. Why a hyena would want cocoa, I'm not quite sure, but you can see the damage that they can do. That was once a full tin, but there's some puncture wounds from the canines over there. There's all over the place that they've chewed into this and absolutely crunched this down as they've tried to get in to the cocoa. Now, I was having a laugh with VM this morning because I was saying, can you imagine a hyena sticking its muzzle into a big pot of cocoa, taking a big deep breath, and then realizing how dry it is, and then it must have coughed, and there must have just been this spray of cocoa powder all over this hyena's face and into the air, and it must have been quite funny to actually have seen. But they really are destructive when it comes to kind of getting hold of anything, and it just gives you an idea of just how powerful these jaws can be. I know this is a fairly soft aluminium tin, but still, there's a lot of power that goes into this, and they just kind of crush it, and the fact that their canines just go straight in here and it doesn't cause any damage. The thing is that these little canines are quite small, so the holes that are made are quite small, so I wonder if this isn't maybe Intima that's doing this damage, because you would find that they'd probably be a bit bigger on an adult hyena than what you see here. Right. Sorry? There's a hole at the bottom as well, VM. Oh, look at that. There is two. So there's a hole, and you can see even some slobber that is still on there, which we don't really want to get on our hands. That's not going to be very nice, but that's the hole on the bottom that was able to be gotten. Lovely stuff. Right. Let's put that back there because we don't want to have much more to do with that. And get rid of that off my dashboard, and then we can carry on. But it just shows you that they were busy last night, and like I say, that's maybe why they were quiet, is because they had found themselves a sort of pot of cocoa, and maybe Ribbon was making cocoa for Intima last night, and that's why after a few cold days it was time to warm up a little bit. Wish they wouldn't have destroyed the whole thing though and made such a mess, because it's a bit of a pain when they get hold of all of these things, because they leave things lying about all over the bush, and we've got to then kind of walk after them and go and try and clean up everything as they go. Right, now I'm going to head southwards, see what's going to be around on the southern boundary, but I believe it's now light enough for the great James Hendry, who is springing about the place as he begins his walk through the Djuma Game Reserve.
I am indeed springing about the bush. How are you all this morning? Good morning. Right, that's enough of that. My name is James Hendry. And we have got Senzo on camera with us today. There are his 3 fingers. Over there, some impala, who are wondering what on earth I'm doing, as I'm sure many of you are doing the same thing. Please do talk to us over the course of the next 3.5 hours using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Otherwise, you can, of course, contact us using the YouTube chat stream. There's impala, a bit like me, looking a little bit chilly today. It's a cool morning. I would put it at roughly, let me just check, 19 degrees Celsius, 18 degrees Celsius, probably around about 69 degrees Fahrenheit, I think. Good. Our plan this morning is to head up to where the Nkuhuma Pride was last night, see if we can pick up tracks, and then we'll sort of make our way around to the north and then the east, returning back here in time for a delicious breakfast at 8 o'clock. That will be 3 hours hence. Otherwise, it is a glorious, clear morning here. There is an Egyptian goose flying over, singing its morning song, which isn't a very attractive song, but it's doing its best. And the air is very still and filled with bird song. What else can we hear? A sunbird. Crested francolins. Cheep, 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 cheep. Lots of doves, ubiquitous Cape turtle doves or ringneck doves. And it really is an unusually cool morning for the middle of summer, but we're not going to complain about that. It is very pleasant. We might also just have another quick look at these impalas over here. I'm assuming that Taylor and Ralph will be joining us, barring any technical difficulties, by 5:30 Central African time, which is of course 6:30 East African time. And as far as I'm aware, they're back in the Mara Triangle today. Hello, Scarlett. Good morning to you. You say, do I prefer bushwalk or driving? It really does depend. There are the impala. I enjoy bushwalk a lot for 2 reasons. The first is that it's quite good exercise compared with sitting in the car. I quite like that. I enjoy the sort of feeling that I've done something relatively physical by the time I return home, 3 hours after we start. Secondly, however, I do enjoy the feeling it gives of closeness to nature. You really don't get the same feeling when you're in the car. Now, that said, of course, by closeness I do mean a sort of connection. It's impossible to get close to cats and study their behavior on foot like you would be able to in a vehicle. In fact, it's impossible to get close to anything the same way that you would in a vehicle when you're on foot, because animals just react to us in a way that indicates their absolute terror of us when you're on foot. And that's important, because the animal behavior that we're able to observe and learn largely comes from our ability to be close to them in vehicles. So it really is a very different experience. But I enjoy the connection I feel to nature when I'm on foot. Isn't that lovely? Big herd of impala disappearing into the woodlands for the day. They've spent much of the night, of course, out in the open, trying to avoid being eaten. All of those have succeeded. How many will succeed till their next birthday? Well, that is the question. Of the very little ones, probably fewer than 50%. I must say, to be born an impala is to be born very unfortunate in some ways. You are, of course, the preferred meal for everything out here. Leopards, lions, cheetahs, hyenas, jackals will even take little ones, baboons. But clearly there is a very successful mating strategy going on out here if their numbers are as vast as they are. Then we have the moon over there, which is very attractive. Hello, moon. While we ponder on the moon and its contribution to our lives, of course, in the form of tides and various other things. Let's go back to Tristan, who has found some Siberian flying insect catchers.
Well, we had a whole bunch of them, but they've now disappeared, so I'll try and find them again now. They're all sitting in a nice dead tree until such time as obviously you guys want to come to us, and then they obviously just fly away as they do. They're all kind of circling about. Now James is referring to some Amur falcons, that is what he was talking about, but they are sort of drifting about above us at the moment, so you can see them kind of flying around. So there they are, and there's both males and females. There's a small grouping of them, I would say, probably. Oh, that one just went into a stoop. Did you see that? That was very cool to see. It just shows you how fast they are as well. But there was probably, I would say, maybe 10 or 11 of them that were sort of drifting about, and they often are in small groups like that. They kind of fly along, and as James mentioned, they are very good at catching all kinds of insects, in particular things like termites. So it's amazing to watch when there's a winged owlet hatch, how these falcons go absolutely crazy and they fly around, and then they actually use their talons to grab these insects in flight. It's really very cool to watch. I remember a sighting of them on Simambili, where there's a big open area and a dam, and they kind of went in there and they were just sort of swooping down and then grabbing. It was very cool to see. Now they were sitting again. They must think that I'm chasing them around, because they were sitting here on my left hand side. Are they going to stay? Let's see. Maybe. There they are in the dead tree. So right at the top of the dead tree is two of them at least, and you'll see that there will be a difference between the two. Now I think those two are both going to be of the same sex, but there is differences between male and female in the species. So you'll find that the female, which I will show you shortly, is that one that we are looking at the moment, and then the male looks very, very different. So the male's got a very different look about him. He's a dark sort of grey coloration with a red beak and red legs. So if you have a look here, you'll notice that you've got the female at the bottom, which is the one that we just saw now. So that's the one with the barring on the chest, that little black moustache, there's sort of orangey red beak and legs, and then that little ring around its eye. Whereas the male, which is on top, you can see looks very different. He's almost like a sooty black color, and his red is far more prominent. It's not as orange as what you see from the female, and they migrate here, as James also alluded to, for our summer months, and so nice to see them. Unfortunately for this species though, they are being absolutely persecuted by netting. So there's many people that net them as they start migrating, and unfortunately their numbers are declining rather rapidly, which is a bit concerning. And it's certainly been noticeable in my time in the Sabi Sands. The groupings and the numbers don't seem to be what they used to be. When I first started here, I used to see hundreds of these guys all over the place. Now it seems as though we're in a situation where there is not very many. Now there are tracks for a lioness over here, so I'm just trying to see if these are from yesterday or from this morning, but there we go. That's the lioness track right there, moving in a sort of northerly direction. There were tracks for lions here yesterday morning, but I just look as these look like they might be on top of the vehicle tracks. I just want to double check a little further ahead, because there was a vehicle that swerved out here, which I think was me yesterday, just to double check. But let's have a look as we go further up, because if they are fresh, they should be theoretically on top of all the vehicle tracks, and then it should be quite easy to be able to follow them. And I'll follow them up towards sort of Philemon's Dip, because from there then I'll be able to tell exactly where they go and whether or not they're yesterday's tracks or today's tracks. They seem to have come from a different direction though, so I think they might be last night. Maybe one of the Styx females that went back to those smaller cubs to go and suckle them. I'm not quite sure, because we know that the smaller cubs weren't with the Styx Pride yesterday morning. Well, we certainly didn't see them, and so maybe this female has walked all the way from where James tracked them yesterday afternoon into Arathusa, and then come back to those little cubs, suckled them, them and then come back this way again. Or it could just be that there was, well, night before, should I say, that the one female came from a different direction as the other two, and they met up on this junction here. So we'll just have a little quick look and see. It's interesting either way. At least it's a track for a lion and something to kind of look for and follow up on. I believe that unfortunately the Nkuma Pride, they left us last night earlier already, so they were already moving off at about 7 o'clock last night. So I think they went back into Simambili or possibly even Buffelshoek, I'm not sure, but I know that they were seen just moving about, heading in that direction. Okay, now Paula, you're saying, do those falcons eat bugs as well as meat? So yes, Paula, they do. They eat termites very regularly, as well as many other different insects. Now I'm just quickly checking here because there's tracks for hyenas, quite fresher than what those lion tracks were, that's for sure. Let's see here, Vildi. Lots of hyena tracks in this area. I wonder if they're maybe not using this den again, although they look like they come from down there. So the tracks come from all there. This is the old den on this side, but they actually don't go down this road. Now if they were moving in towards that den, we'd find the tracks would all turn off down the road, but they're actually coming from this western side. So I might just follow these along and just see what they are. I mean, this is all from hyenas going the opposite direction, so I'm not 100% sure what's even going on with the den sites at the moment. So maybe not a bad idea to go and check around for those things and see what else or where the hyenas are at the moment and what they've been up to besides being in DRC eating cocoa. Maybe they got themselves a new little home that they're spending time in. But there's lots of tracks coming up the road. No sign of these lion tracks, so I think they're yesterday's tracks that we're not going to probably follow because we obviously know where they went. Now, Paula, you're wondering if hyenas are allergic to chocolate and cocoa the same way dogs are. Well, Paula, I really have no idea. I've never tested the allergies of a hyena and to know whether or not they are. I would surmise that they probably shouldn't be eating it, given that it is not a naturally occurring thing for them and that they're not really coming across big tins of cocoa everywhere they go. So it's probably not ideal that they're eating all those, but hyenas have the constitution of, well, probably the strongest constitutions out here, and they're able to deal with a lot. And so I would imagine that they maybe just, you know, they just kind of deal with it and carry on. And if you can eat rotting meat and all kinds of other things, then I suppose they can be okay. I mean, they really are hard animals, and they pretty much can digest and process things that a lot of other animals can't, and so maybe it's all okay from that point of view. I suppose it's also a once-off thing is never as bad as maybe if they had to do it all the time. Oh, good morning, Mr. Impala. He's having a really good stretch. His shame was having a little nap on the side of the road here. I suppose when it's been night time, it's obviously don't get too much sleep as an impala, and so take advantage as the sun comes up while it's still cool, just to have a little rest. Also toilet time before you start moving as well, so wake up, have a little wee, maybe even a bit of a poo, and then we'll go again and try and go and see what else is happening. Right, we're going to carry on. I'm going to go to Treehouse Dam. I just want to check there if there's any sign of anything happening around that side. These line tracks, like I say, are not fresh, so we're not going to worry about them too much. And while we head off to Treehouse Dam, let's go back across to James Henry as he strolls around through the rather damp grass this morning.
Well, I've managed to avoid walking through too much damp grass thus far. What we have here, of course, is a termite mound occupied by termites. Now, you might ask yourself, how does this man know that it's still occupied? And my answer to you would be to come over here, because it doesn't look particularly occupied. But if we look over here, what we find is the emergence of mushrooms or fungus. And it is my not my firm belief, I wonder if this isn't the fungus that has come to the surface out of the fungus gardens of the termites. Now, for those of you who don't know, of course, the termites that live in these termite mounds grow and cultivate fungus. and they cultivate the fungus because the fungus digests the plant matter, cellulose and lignin, the structural material, and then they eat the fungus. Because just about every single animal in the world, bar a few termite species, lack the enzymes themselves to digest all of that plant material. Anyway, these could just be, different kinds of mushrooms that have taken to living on this termite mound, but they could also just as easily be sort of blooms from the termites fungus. And if you look under there, you can see a lot more. Now, what's interesting to me about this is that there are ant species that do the same thing, I think specifically in South America, that grow fungus in order to digest plant material. Now, ants are not closely related to termites at all. They come from a totally different order of insect. And in fact, to say that they're from a totally different order is to say that they are probably more distantly related than I am to a lion, for example. And so they have evolved, they have co-evolved. Okay, we're going to quickly nip across to the Masai Mara now, to Taylor.
Look at what we have found this morning. Another Mara first for all of you in the form of a flapneck chameleon. How cool is that? Let's I can't believe we've spotted it. I don't know why I said let's. Anyway, hello everybody, my name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today, starting a bit earlier than usual, is Archie. Now, we're on top of the escarpment, but let's have a quick look at this chameleon, because we're going to have to head down towards the gate in a little bit, as we're still very, very far away from the floor of the Mara Triangle. And there are many gremlins that inhabit this area, but it is very, very cool, this chameleon. I don't know if we're on it. There we go. It blends in so well. I'm trying to not put too much light on it, but a very cool chameleon. At first I thought I'd lost it because it crawled up onto some higher branches when I'd first spotted it, but it has relaxed now and it's actually quite comfortable. It's not a very big one. The other evening I found one that was maybe double this size, so it's the same species of chameleon that we see down in the Sabi sand, and that one was the biggest flapneck chameleon I've ever seen in my life. I didn't even know that they got that big. However, everything seems to be bigger and better in the Mara. Again, there's just so much food around, but that is really nice. And I know which tree this is on, so what we might even do is try and check this tree on a regular basis. They'll typically stay in the same one, and so it could be quite nice to come back and check on this chameleon and see how it's doing. Who knows, maybe we even get to see it during the day, perhaps this morning a little bit later. Now, typically it would have been resting most of the night. It should start to get active, but the sun has not even risen just yet. So I think it's still a little bit on the cold side. It's very chilly this morning. You can see there's lots of water on the leaves. We've just had a downpour. We might get another one because the clouds are quite thick above us this morning. And I'm sure you're all taking plenty of screenshots. Remember to hashtag Safari Live so you can share them. How great is that? But let's keep going. Unfortunately, like I said, we've still got a distance to go before we get anywhere near the Mara floor. We are actually just not too far away from camp, but I could not drive past and not show you first chameleon that I think we've put on screen. I don't think anyone's put a chameleon on screen. Chameleon queen even here in the Masai Mara. I love finding them. They're such cool creatures. It's one of my favorite things to do, of course, as you know, in the Sabi sand. All those of you that have seen me guiding down there. Right, but for the rest of you who have just jumped on, big welcome. Very lucky to see a chameleon up here. They're few and far between, well, just difficult to spot. But I'm going to send you all the way now back down to South Africa, where Tristan has been picking up litter in the bush courtesy of the hyenas. Hopefully he won't have to do any more of that, but maybe he'll find you a leopard instead.
Well, Taylor McCurdy, I'm having to do it because you have vanquished your post as Chief Ribbon chaser. So Taylor, when she used to be here at Djuma, who has insomnia at times, used to get driven mad by the hyenas and their incessant movement around camp at night, waking her up, and so she used to be the one that used to chase Ribbon. So now we're having to pick up where Taylor slacked off by going to East Africa and having to go and meander around there. So now it's up to somebody else to do all of this work, which is fine. We don't mind doing it. And yes, Taylor, hopefully we will find ourselves a leopard. So far, no real kind of concrete evidence of anything. So we've got tracks apparently that Viam has seen. Viam, what have you seen? Lion tracks everywhere. I wonder if this is not from a couple days ago, because there was lions here. Yes, they were all over the place. So you can actually see that they were playing quite a bit. So I'll just try and reposition myself. They're not fresh tracks, because there's about 4 million cars over the ones that are on the road itself. But here you can see just on the right hand side where they were playing, there's tracks for the sub-adults, and they were running up and down. You can even see there's scrape marks and claw marks, and this is where they were kind of trotting and playing, and there in particular was where they were obviously clawing at the sand itself. So lots of little playing and games that happened. This was from, I would say, probably not last night, the night before. So the night before we found them. So I don't think this is all worth following, but we'll just check around. You never know. Let's go have a little look. I wonder, what do you think, Viam? I think they may be on Arathusa, that's what I think, but let's try our luck anyway. We're gonna just head towards where their tracks crossed out. You never know, maybe they've come back again. There's literally tracks for them all over the place, but it's tough to kind of work out exactly how fresh they are. The ground is still quite damp, and so it hasn't really gotten hard yet, or gotten those crust on those tracks. When they normally form during rain periods and the sun shines, and they get crusty quite quickly. But because we've had overcast conditions and still quite damp, a lot of the tracks are still showing up quite nicely and are actually still quite soft. So tough to work out exactly how old they are, but we'll scratch around and see. You never know, maybe we come across some lion somewhere along the line. It would be always nice to catch up with either the Sticks or the Nkuhumas. They're both prides that obviously spend quite a bit of time around, and we haven't seen too much of either pride really, and so it's always nice when you get some time to spend with them, particularly with the little cubs when they're quite playful. And cooler mornings like this sometimes indicate that there could be some playful lions about. Although I was just looking there, I thought I saw some buffalo tracks, which would have made me very happy. Hello kudu, what are you all staring at? These guys are all right on top, kind of staring off into the bush, aren't they? So, well, not guys, they're ladies. My apologies, ladies, I shouldn't be calling you that. There's some others that are right on top of the mound as well, and they're busy looking at, well, I suppose not really looking. That young male is busy having breakfast, isn't it? But this one in front is really kind of staring off into the distance, and maybe it's because of us, or maybe it's because there's an oncoming car that they're a little bit aware of. Either way, it's got an oxpecker friend already this morning, so the oxpeckers have gotten an early start, and amazing how they're able to move up and down the side of the necks of these animals. You can see how their feet are different to other birds in that they've got only 2 toes facing forward, and then you can see the other 2 facing back. So they've got that xylodactyl foot that allows them to be able to go up and down the sides of the animals' bodies without causing any issues. Now you can see she's quite alert because there's another car that's arrived, and when there's multiple cars, often kudus do get a little on the more sort of alert side. So I think we're going to just make some space for this gentleman to come past. He's got a transfer to do, so he's obviously got to go and fetch some guests and get them to the airport so that they can either, well, in this case, leave and go somewhere else, or I don't know, go to Cape Town or wherever they might be going. You never know. People travel all over the place from these reserves, and so I'm sure that's why he's there. There's actually quite a nice picture of this kudu on top of the termite mound, so you can see it kind of silhouetted against a very bright backdrop, but it's quite pretty, isn't it? So still a young boy. He's going to get much larger than what he is now, but ears are looking around, eyes as well, just kind of scan and see what's going on. I wonder if maybe just the scent of those lions has made them a little uneasy this morning, and that's why they're quite alert as to what's happening. Also, using a termite mound like that would allow them to be able to see a long distance, and off they go. You can see quite agile for a big size. And gone. Absolutely disappear. Once they get behind vegetation, it's pretty incredible how quickly we lose them and how they melt into the bush as fast as they do. Now, let's just go off the road, or back onto the road without hopefully hitting another car. Oh, hello, kudu. Is that what the rest of them were staring at? Was another kudu. Enjoy your morning. Go join your friends. I don't know. I don't see any other further signs of these lions being in this area, so I'm not 100% sure, but we'll go and check that new road up and towards Impala Plains just in case. You never know. Maybe these lions decided to come back. I didn't hear any lions roaring last night, so I wouldn't expect there to be much happening, but you never know. Maybe, you know, the females don't often roar. It's more the males that do so, and so both prides could still theoretically be around, and we're just missing them by driving in different areas. Right, let's go up here. There's nothing really on this particular section. I just want to check this Firebreak Road. It's always a good place to look for tracks as well. No, nothing there. Right. No sign of anything in this particular section. I'm going to go check up towards Impala Plains, see if the lions pop out there somewhere. There's some impalas in front. While I do that, I believe James is getting down and dirty on the ground, well, with some slithery, rather interesting looking characters.
Well, they're not so much slithery as they are slimy. Two African land snails mating. Now, it's just a little confusing as to exactly what's going on, and I've been trying to read up while I've been sitting here. But basically, there is a transfer of spermatozoa, as far as I can work out, from one to the other. Now, in a traditional snail mating, say your garden variety snail, they don't come together like this, one behind the other. They come together foot on foot, and then they shoot their love darts into each other. Now, these love darts are darts, basically, that they shoot into each other to pull each other closer. They sort of stimulate each other with hormones, and then the transfer of spermatozoa happens through the genital opening. And what's interesting here is that, of course, snails are hermaphrodites largely. All the land snails are hermaphrodites. And that means that they are male and female, and they can, in fact, self-fertilize if they can't find a partner like this. But these chaps, of course, have found each other, and so they are transferring genetic material. But I don't really know how it works in the African land snail, because they seem to be transferring, but they don't have their genital openings close to each other. And so I think the love dart in the giant African land snail is probably also some kind of transferal tube, because in theory they should have their feet together as opposed to being one behind the other like they are now. Isn't that fascinating? So they're both male and they're both female. And apparently, I mean, these chaps will live between 5 and 7 years, sometimes up to 10 years. And they'll go off and lay their eggies, I think, about 4 to 7 days after this mating takes place. Now, of course, in imminent danger of being flattened by something, because they're on the road. But I think they'll be okay. I don't want to touch them to break up their, well, obvious sort of affection for each other. Yes, it's difficult to understand what's going on here exactly. There's not a lot of movement. In fact, there's very little movement at all. But for the twitching of one of the antennae. Now, what I'm going to do is cheat and just retrieve the article I was reading before you came to me, because I don't understand exactly what's happening here. So enjoy looking at that while I just quickly tell you. Now it says here, in the pre-copulation stage, both snails approach and one of them locate behind the other and position above the shell. So that's exactly what's happened here. If the one underneath accepts it, it moves back and the top snail begins copulation to transfer sperm and fertilize eggs of its mate. In the case of snails of similar size, which these are not, both can fertilize the eggs of the other simultaneously. Coupling usually takes place during the night. So this is probably the end of coupling here. So it happens differently in the giant land snail from other snails. Very interesting. They can lay up to 200 eggs per clutch, if conditions are right, and about 1,200 eggs per year. So they'll lay 5 to 6 clutches of eggies in 1 year. Wow. And they have a hatch success rate of about 90%. So each of these snails will produce about 1,150 offspring every year. Most of them won't get anything like this size, because I think these are pretty much fully grown. So, I mean, these snails are probably, well, in excess of 4 years old. Isn't that wonderful? Now, I believe we have been having a bit of pixelation, which basically means picture breakup, on the Bushwalk backpack. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. We will try and fix it as the morning progresses. Poor old Rexon has disappeared off to try and find the lions. He's got very sick and tired of sitting with snails. I find myself slightly dissatisfied with the explanation I've given you. So what I will try and do is find out a bit more about how they mate, because I'm not sure. In theory, the back one here is transferring sperm to the front one. But it says there that they can both do it, but I don't see how if only one has produced a tube. Anyway, we will try and ponder on these mysteries while we do that. Tristan's actually heading up around about to where we were heading on foot to try and find tracks of the Angama pride.
Well, James, yes, it was good to ponder mysteries, and snail mating is one of those mysteries. I remember reading about it the other day, and then I've now completely forgotten, which is what happens to me at times. I have to read things a few times before it sticks in the old noggin, and so unfortunately it's also escaping me as to exactly how the mating process works. But anyway, if James is heading in this area, maybe we'll take our leave then and go and explore somewhere else and try and leave him to track them down on foot, because, well, it's going to be probably a lot easier than it is going to be for us. The roads are incredibly difficult to see tracks on, and so I would imagine he's going to have far more success if he finds tracks than what we will. So probably head off now and try and go and just scratch around further to the east. Like I say, I want to go and have a look around for Hosanna that was seen last night anyway, so we'll go and just check. It was just by off chance these lions may have come back. It was worth having a little look around, and because there's been so many sort of signs of them over the last few days, it's always good just to come and check again and just see. Maybe they're hanging around with those little cubs somewhere. Hopefully the little cubs have had a bit of a meal now and are in far better condition. And it was nice to see the Angama pride yesterday. Well, I didn't personally see them. I just watched them vicariously through Steve, as we all do, and they look as though they're doing quite well. I mean, they obviously could have done with the meal. One or two of them are looking as though it is summer months and that they're a little on the skinny side, which is okay. It does happen in this time of the year. And the female with the big gash on her hip looks really good. I'm just impressed at how much that is healed. It obviously is still a little wound there, and it still doesn't look great, but considering how it started, she's looking 1,000,000 times better, so that's really good news. The bit sort of concerning thing is that there was only one of the little cubs there, which is not ideal. Hopefully the other one is somewhere and is all right. I haven't heard much about the Angama pride, and the fact that they move around so much at the moment means it's a little tough to keep sort of tabs on exactly what's going on. What also concerns me is that there was apparently another female lactating, and we actually saw the pride a few, I would like to say months ago, because it feels like I haven't seen the Angama pride in ages, and there was 2 females that were lactating at that point. So I wonder where those little cubs are and whether or not they're still being denned, or if they maybe didn't make it. I'm not sure. But it would be nice to kind of pick up some sort of sign of them as well, and just see the Angama pride as a complete set and see exactly how many of them there are these days, because they've spent so little time here. Difficult to know exactly what's going on, but they do still look very pretty, and I must be honest, they are beautiful lions, and they are lions that when you've seen the sticks are in their own right, have their own way about them, but the Angamas definitely are a much sort of deeper, rich golden color than what the sticks are. I find the sticks are quite a light, sort of tawny, and almost have a sort of grayish appearance to them, but those Angamas are a lot more gold, and especially yesterday's light, that beautiful golden light that we had last night, they looked really impressive, those sub-adults, and so it'd be nice to catch up with them again at some point. Now, somebody has been naughty here, namely a rhinoceros has done this. They often do these things. They pick it up with their horns and then they just kind of push it along. So we're going to just bypass all of that. Why it would have done it, I'm not quite sure. Sometimes they're just doing it when they've got an itch on their face, or they're just trying to in some way kind of get some sort of a scratch done, and then they just decide, well, let's just push it along and it will make a statement anyway. Vim, which way should we go? Rebecca's or Zoe's? Straight. Alright, Vim, you said it, we're going to do it. Let's just check there's no tracks coming up here. No, nothing here. These are just the tracks from yesterday that we followed to find those sticks lines, so we're not going to follow those. Now, no one's driven on this road since the rain. You can see it's nice and clean and clear, and so hopefully if we do get tracks on this road, it will help us to be able to find whoever the culprit is that made it. I suppose there's also, you could look at it from a situation that whoever walked on here, because there's been no cars, could have walked on here in the last 3 days, but I don't know if that's going to be the case. It's because it hasn't been driven on, it'll be nice to kind of see crisp, clear tracks on the puffier sand that's sort of dried a little bit, and particularly this section. This is a nice section for tracking. So this is where the lions walked yesterday. I can see all of their tracks coming up this road, and this is pretty much where we found the tracks yesterday to be able to find them. So this is definitely not today's tracks, so we'll have to carry on and look for fresher ones. But I believe a lot of you are saying hopefully we find the lions. It would be nice, wouldn't it? It would be nice just to see either pride, really. It's always good when we've got lions around, and yesterday was, I think, probably the first time in a very, very, very long time that we had 2 different lion prides at Djuma in the same day, and was able to see both the sticks and the Angamas on Djuma itself. So it was good sort of omen for hopefully better lion viewing over the next couple weeks. I can't remember actually last time I saw the Angama pride. It must have been quite some time ago. But it feels eerily quiet this morning. It's a weird kind of feeling, and VM and I were talking about it just now, is that it just doesn't feel like much is happening. There's obviously a few land snails about that are courting, and James has interrupted that, but other than that, it just feels as though there's kind of not really anything happening. There's no sounds coming, there's no sort of atmosphere this morning, and I don't know why. It's a weird thing. Sometimes the bush is like that. Sometimes you'll kind of wake up and you'll get out and it'll just feel like it's absolutely dead. There's also very few impalas about, and I don't know what causes it. Maybe it's just the change in weather. There's a bit of a sort of coldish feel to the morning, and so maybe they were all waiting for the sun to come out before they actually start sort of doing anything and moving around. But for now it feels as though it's all a little bit sedate. Even the birds, I've been looking around for birds, they seem to be all kind of hidden at the moment. They're not really out just yet, so I think when the sun eventually gets above those clouds, hopefully that will cause everybody to wake up a little bit, and we'll get a lot more happening and a lot more action going on than what we've got right now. Funny enough, also very few signs of elephants around, which is no good. I always like having ellies around, and so hopefully when the sun comes out and the weather changes a little bit, then we'll start to see our ellies also coming back out. They're not a huge fan of this cold, windy weather. When we get weather that is a little more sort of overcast and warm, then you'll still find ellies all over the place. But when it gets cold and windy like we've had over the last 2 days, then you'll find that the ellies really do disappear. They just kind of go into these thickets and it becomes really tough to find them. So we need a bit of sunshine to get them out as well. It seems as though sunshine is the key. What say you, Viam? Yes? Sunshine, yep. Although it doesn't look like we're going to get any. It looks like another front is on its way. So, Karen, you're wondering if there's been any sign of shadow and not Barbara. So, not on Djuma side, as far as I know, but they were seen yesterday. I'd like to say yesterday, it might have been the day before, by some of the guys on Little Gowrie, and it was both Shadow and Barbara as well as Hosanna. So all three of them were seen in the same area. Again, apparently Shadow was growling and hissing and being a little grumpy with Hosanna and kind of pushing him away, which is not surprising if not Barbara was there, because you don't really want male leopards around your cubs, and so that's sort of behavior is not surprising at all. Apparently she was scent marking and just growling at him a little bit. Didn't stop him apparently, he just followed them around anyway and didn't really care too much about what she had to say. So it's where she's been hanging out is south of the boundary, and maybe that's why it's worth just going and checking around Tundam's Mulawati. Sometimes she just kind of comes up in that section and we maybe pick her up somewhere there. It would be nice to see Shadow again. It's been a while since I've seen her, and the last time I saw her I had that incredible sighting of her and Tingana and not Barbara all together, which was really an epic way to spend a morning. Wouldn't mind a morning like that again in the near future, that's for sure. Anytime you can have 3 leopards together is a wonderful time. I wonder, Treehouse Dam, Vildi? We haven't been to Treehouse Dam yet. We got a bit sidetracked. We ended up going down Shabamu instead. So I think Treehouse Dam, Twin Dams, Chitwa Dam. Is that what we're doing, Vildi? Yeah. There we go. All right, let's go and do a dam run and see what we can find at the dams. Maybe we'll get lucky with something. It's interesting, the weather seems to be changing as well, so it doesn't look like the sun is going to come out. You see there's almost like another cold front that is starting to arrive with that cloud, because there wasn't too much of that on the horizon when we started our drive this morning, but it's looking a little ominous now, and certainly is still quite chilly this morning. Right, now it sounds like our Mara team is up and running effectively now, and that Ralph, who has not said hello just yet, is rearing to go. He's got a rather large friend with him, so let's jump across to the East African plains and see what he's up to.
Good morning everybody, and welcome one and all for another sunrise safari here on a very rainy, dark and gloomy Mara Triangle here in Kenya. It's been quite a chilly start to the morning. My name is Ralph Kirsten and we've got Manu on the camera. Morning Manu.
Morning.
Yes folks, everybody please join us on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. We'd love for you to be involved. Let's make it as interactive as possible as you join us on the largest game drive on the planet. My decisions for this morning, I think we might be heading towards that hyena den, see how wet and muddy those little cubs are, and maybe then we'll go and pass on down to the river from there, and I think we'll just take it as it comes this morning. It's as I said, it's quite a wet start to the day. It's been raining pretty much right through the night, and it's been quite a drizzly and cold. So the temperature probably about 15 degrees centigrade, lower 60 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's really not warm at all. We've all got our jerseys on and the wind chill factor playing a role. And this elephant obviously also quite comfortable with this temperature. Once again, no flapping of the ears and no reason to be cooling off, that's for sure. But the ever-present feeding that they need to be doing, and I think it's going to be a wonderful morning. You never know, when it's quite cool like this, we can get a lot of activity from animals. When it's warmer and hotter, then they do become a lot more lethargic. So although it might be a little bit cold for us driving in an open safari vehicle, it is great for the animals because they've got a lot more energy and reason to be out and about when it's a bit cooler like this. But it still does make for a beautiful vista, very different when the sun is out and you get that golden light. But now we've got a very misty, rainy start. It's quite eerie almost. Yes, so folks, I think we're going to start up and we will be heading on down the road. We'll be staying on the main road. We won't hit the river road. We'll stay on the main road and then we take our little secret road off to the hyena den, and I'm sure we're going to come across a lot of elephants in those plains there. And past the plains, then we obviously have those hyena, but we also generally come across all the topi and the zebra and the gazelle, possibly some kangoni, but it's not generally their particular area. But we might even see some ostriches. And ostriches in this kind of weather, not very comfortable because it's a little bit moist, a little bit cold. Ostriches, they like hot, dry conditions, so they're not very comfortable when it gets like this. But the hot air balloons are up, and maybe they know something. If they're up in the sky, it can generally mean that it might be clearing quite soon, because these guys are obviously watching the weather quite intently. And let's hope we don't get stuck again. Very muddy today. Watch out for the bump now. Just to get back on the road here. And there we go. Well, it's fine. I've already got my marshmallow badge, so if I get stuck, well, all right. So folks, we're going to head on down towards the road, heading off to the hyena den. Lovely to have you aboard, but let's send you on off to Taylor and see how she's getting along.
I'm very indecisive all of a sudden after our chameleon sighting. We haven't seen me for a while. It's a bird making a noise. There's lions here, lots of them. We just saw a lioness, and then there are some cubs playing in the grass which we can't see. I'm not really too stressed about the cubs right now. I want to go and see what the lionesses are up to. Yesterday we tried to get them for you, but just unfortunately there was a lot of traffic there on the main road. I sat for about 10-15 minutes trying to get in, and I couldn't get in, unfortunately. So I've just seen one of the lionesses, and she was walking around. You may have seen those topi run into frame with Ralph's elephants. Those topi were reacting to that lioness. They ran right past the lioness, and obviously there's lots of youngsters there, so they wanted to get away. We are gonna slip and slide quite a bit this morning, but the grass is very long. I don't think we're going to be doing any off-roading. We've had some more rain, and with all the rain we had yesterday, the ground is now very saturated and it has become exceptionally slippery. Like here, this guy's gonna slide. Oh no, he's gonna slip and slide around. We're gonna try and not slip into one another either. Good driving from that guy. I was worried that his one tire was gonna drag him on in. So we'll just quickly have a quick scan. I do see another car up there, so perhaps that they can help us this morning in terms of being the target, and we can use them to try and figure out where that lioness is in comparison to the vehicle. So those cubs again, they're just in such long grass on that main road. We can go back and have a look at them at some point, but I just want to see what's going on over here. So it's the Angamas. So the 4 lioness should be out on a hunt, hopefully on a hunt. It's perfect weather for them. It's nice and cool, so they won't be using too much energy. It's cloudy, it's a bit drizzly. Fortunately not much wind, but still really good hunting weather. Let's have a quick look. I'm just trying to scan. The light is very poor at the moment, which is making it pretty difficult to try and see anything with the thick clouds that we have. The sun has not had a chance to poke through, and then I'm also concentrating on the roads. Very slippy. Okay. It seems as though Rolf has beat me to it. We'll move on from this area. He's got some lion cubs that have come out onto the road, so let's go across to him.
Thanks, Taylor. Yes, and very lucky coming down to the base of the Olololo escarpment, and look what was waiting for us. And they're all heading up the road. It seems like it's the Angama pride. There's about 15 of them here. Few female adults and the rest being young cubs, but we'll just try and follow up behind them. So I'm starting up. I just want to get in behind them, but we don't want to push up too close and disturb their normal walking up the road and absolute natural behavior. So I'm just going to... It's very muddy this morning, folks. I almost got stuck on the main road. So the ground has been absolutely sodden. I'm just going to turn off here. A little bit of marking and going to the toilet going on. So, but very nice to see. They're nice and active. Look at that. And they obviously also don't appreciate being so wet for so long. So obviously why they're walking on the main road, at least not walking through the long grass, which would make them wet all over as they walk through. So a little bit of respite, I think, from the wet on the main road. It's always nice to follow up behind lions. I love walking with them, even though we're driving with them, but it does give you that feeling of moving along with them as you're going on the main road like this. Especially when they're active on a nice cool morning. There's every opportunity or chance that something moves through the grass nearby. Lots of eyes to look for it as well. They could potentially go on the hunt. Lots of youngsters though, so lots of chance for them to mess it up for the adults. So I'm just going to move up a little bit closer. Let's see where they're off to. That's a lovely start to the morning, isn't it? See, sometimes you can think, wow, so wet and miserable, but look what we found. It's fabulous. Now please don't forget to join us once again on the Twitter handles and the YouTube live chat. Send us your questions and your comments. We'd love for you to be involved. What do you want to know about lions? What do you want to know about these specific lions? So let us know, folks. Get involved and we will love to have you on board. And so this is my kind of roadblock. We had one the other day when I was, I think it might have been the Sausage Tree Pride, a little bit further away. Now, they're all walking up the road and there's a couple of vehicles coming from that side. Obviously everybody's starting up their morning game drive, coming from the lodges. So I wonder what these lions are going to do now when they get to that blockage, whether they're going to go around it, through it. They're very used to the vehicles, so don't worry. It's not a problem for them. It's just going to be interesting to see whether the adults lead them through those vehicles or around them. My money's on going around them and back onto the road behind them. And they might even just continue in the long grass from there. One of the females already heading up onto the side of the embankment, and you might find that she says, right, well, we're in the long grass now, let's just keep going. She's looking off with intent, but it seems they're going to continue and maybe just go round. Let's see, there comes some marking again. They don't waste any opportunity. If they're walking around, they will mark. Now, Safari Dean, you're saying that looks like some hungry lions. Let's hope that Mommy gets a nice meal. Well, we do hope that is on the cards, but we never know. Maybe they've already done their hunting for the evening. They might be just heading back and maybe going for a drink and maybe then heading for a sleep. Who knows? We might be very lucky if they are going to hunt indeed. But I can tell you that if anything pops up next to them in the grass, they will definitely go for it, because they are extremely opportunistic hunters, and if there's a warthog or anything that bumps up next to them, they will definitely go for it. So folks, I'm going to try and see if we can reposition and get a better view of these lions. While I'm doing that, all the way back in South Africa, James is on foot, and let's go and see him with one of those big animals.
There's an elephant just over there. I'm not sure how good your view is, but it's a breeding herd that's come right to the north of the property and is now heading down towards the drainage system that eventually leads into the Vuyatera Dam. Now, the reason I'm speaking so quietly is that the wind is not great for us. It's swirling all over the place, and the bush is very thick, which means that to get a decent view of this herd is going to be quite difficult, but I think we're going to make an attempt to do it regardless. And then I'm going to really test Senzo now. Senzo, can you see this bird sitting on the end of the tree? You got him there? Oh, he's gone. Never mind. Never mind the bird. Oh, there's the elephant. Alright, apparently we're going to go back to the Mara now. We've got a lion about to give his territorial display. We'll try and get another good view of this elephant herd.
He was, and then he stopped. So he kind of started and then, and then didn't continue. Apologies, you can hear a car rumbling. Hopefully they decide to switch their engine off, because he's about to start roaring again. And you won't be able to hear it, I'm afraid. I'm going to ask this fellow, though, next time he does, because I think he wants to do a big roar, to switch his car off, otherwise we're not going to hear it very well. I also don't think we're going to go off-roading in this area. There's a lot of black cotton soil. There are patches that are fine. I did drive on an area too where it was a little bit on the hard side, which is quite nice, but I know I've driven that road along the forest and it has been particularly wet. I've almost got stuck there a number of different times, and I don't know where those boggy patches start. So what we might have to do is try and actually drive on the forest road and wait for him to come towards us. But we'll just watch him for now, and then I'm going to have to... Actually, we're going to have to race, because sure, he's moving quickly. He's on a roll this morning. He's hopefully going to give us a roar. Hopefully I'll get around in time. That'll be nice. One of the triangle boys, one of the Chitwa Tembo males, in case you're wondering. It's the coalition of males that hang around the Angamas, the marsh breakaways. They love this section up here. I'm just going to try and drive fairly quickly without getting stuck. My goodness, it is slippery today. Ready. Oh, pity we didn't. We could have slid so nicely into that one if the mud was a bit better in that spot. There we go. We just had to do a quick little loop. We'll get him now. Just hold on, Arch. Woo! My favorite thing to do is slide around in the mud, but I won't do too much sliding here. They seem to have repaired this road quite nicely. They've deposited some sand. Now, cheetah Rika, you're wondering how often do lions roar? Whenever they feel the need to. So for a big male, it's very important that he roars regularly, especially in the evenings when they're most active, to declare to all the other lions in the area that this territory is occupied and they must keep away. Also, if they're looking for another member, perhaps, then they'll often call. Lionesses will roar too. It's not just the males. I'm just deciding what we're going to do. I think he's going to go further ahead, so we'll try and jump ahead of all the cars. And it's so beautiful. He's got a trio of hot air balloons above his head, which we'll show you in a minute. I'm going to try and get directly in line with him. There we go. We won't see the hot air balloons right now, but that's not what's important. This lion is moving through the grass. Look how he's having to lift his head up as well as he walks. That's how tall the grass is. He looks like, I always describe it like a shark, especially when the black rhinos go through. But he's kind of just moaning at the moment in terms of doing that. I wonder if the other males aren't nearby and that's where he's headed to. But isn't that absolutely gorgeous? Grass is stunning at the moment, really complementing the colors of a lion, and you can see why they can completely disappear in that grass. Here, exactly the same color. Come on, big boy, if you're going to do a roar, now's your opportunity. We're all sitting waiting very quietly for you. Oh, good boy. He's done this before. Look at his eyes, wide open. He's focused. He's looking for something or maybe another lion. I think the rest of the pride must be all scattered around here. So now he's just contact calling. Come on, do it again for us. So I'm sitting quietly, hope that he is going to do that contact call. Yeah, he's looking for the other coalition members. Perhaps he's been separated. I'm not sure which one of the triangle boys this is. Let's see if it's the tailless male. He's just going to squeeze through the cars. They're very relaxed. Yes, it is. It is. I should have known him. He's one of my favorite boys, but completely relaxed around the vehicles, just passing that Angama guide. How nice to have an up-close and personal experience like that. Imagine how excited those guests must be on that vehicle. Very, very cool, but we'll try and sneak around here. We'll just stick to the edge. This is all right. It's actually quite nice here. And when we go a little bit further down, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. In terms of, I'm starting to see the patches of that soil now. Cotton soil pop through. Just very sneakily we're going to move around. He is roaring, so I'm just trying to move out of the way so the other guards can see. He's now stopped. He's not doing proper roars. Like I said, he's just trying to get somebody's attention. And it's not uncommon for coalition members like this to split up. We see it quite often down in the Sabi sand with the Birmingham boys. And in fact, they don't actually spend a lot of time together. It's just every now and then that they reunite, and we see all four of them together. But that is the most picture-perfect scene. A very iconic one out here in the Mara Triangle, even in the Masai Mara Reserve, and to an extent in the Serengeti, to see lions in tall grass like this. There are only a few spots in the Sabi sand where you can get a sighting like this. There we go, he's starting again. No, I always love the way the lion's eyes change. From those sleepy, docile eyes during the day, and normally as the sun goes down, those pupils dilate. And they always just look like they're so much more excited, so much more alert. hope he doesn't go down into the forest, though. Because if he goes down, and then there's no ways we're going to be able to follow him, unfortunately. He seems smelling as well. It's amazing how they're able to analyze so many different things at once. Hearing, seeing, and smelling. Now, Elena, who's only 14 years old, hello. You're wondering, could that darker mane be a disadvantage when he's trying to disappear during the grass? I'll continue answering in a minute. Beautiful. Okay. Well, the way that he's positioned himself, we weren't getting the full blow of that roar, unfortunately, but it was echoing down into the forest. So sorry, Alana, let's get back to your question quickly. So, not necessarily, not in this long grass. In short grass, a lion's mane definitely is a disadvantage, and that's why they sometimes struggle to hunt in very, very short grass, where it's actually easier for the females. He's turning back and coming towards us now. So, in this type of grass, no, he's going to sit. You can see he completely disappears. And lions, when they do hunt, they will stalk, so they get nice and low. So their heads won't necessarily be sticking out at all. And you can see, completely gone. Just the top of his head right now. And that's because he's sitting up. He's still looking around. But if he were to have leopard crawled through that grass, I promise you right now, you wouldn't even know that he was there. So it's not too bad. But that darkness in the mane is very important. It indicates a mature male. It means that he is producing lots of testosterone. And he's got very, very good genetics. A lot of the lionesses, a study that they did, they say that it's shown that they prefer males with darker manes. Very cool though. But I mean, you could drive past, and how many times have I shouted out lion, and it's actually just been a termite mound. Oh, he's gone. Look at that. Right, James is living dangerously down in the South Africa. Don't worry, he's an expert safari guide. He knows what he's doing. That instead of viewing the elephants in a vehicle, he's decided to take a bit of a gamble and have a look at them on foot.
We are, we're in amongst the herd. Well, not in amongst, we're quite close. And it's been quite difficult because the bush is very, very thick indeed. You can just see a few of them through there. And we came sneaking down through here. And we got to within probably about 10 meters, 33 feet or so, of an elephant, a young elephant, probably only about 3 years old, just behind one of the trees. And the elephant didn't pick us up, so we backed up onto the top of this termite mound. And we're now looking down towards this drainage system that I mentioned earlier. There are 2 elephants feeding there in the direction that you're looking. And the rest of the herd is moving down into that drainage system. I'm checking the wind continuously. It seems to be much more consistently now coming from the southeast towards the northwest. And it's bringing with it yet more cloud and another mildish day for summer here in the greater Kruger National Park. Now this is why I like to be on foot. It's not the best view of elephants we'll ever get, not even close. But there are elephants now standing not more than 30 feet, 100 meters away from me. Sorry, 100 meters. No, what am I talking about? 30 meters, 100 feet away. And that gives you a tremendous sense of your own insignificance on planet Earth. There's an edge to it. Now, one doesn't want to go and start taking risks with elephants at all. But it is wonderful to be this close to something so enormous and so completely wild, at the same time knowing that it is not anywhere near us. Well, Guide Monkey, you make a very good point. You say you hope we have an escape route planned. Well, our escape route at the moment is this termite mound. We're standing very high up. It's very steep. Elephants are good climbers, but it's highly unlikely that they would chase us all the way up here. And we also, of course, could then use it for cover, drop down the back and disappear. It is extremely important that when you approach large animals on foot that you do have an escape route, because without one you can get yourself into big trouble. And the big thing is that we all know what the escape route is, so that we don't all bombshell should one of the elephants take sort of a sense of displeasure at us being here. Let's just move a little bit along this top here and see if we can't get a slightly better view. We are not far from them, but the bush is very thick. I'm just going to stick my head round the corner here. And of course it's all very well for me because I am unencumbered, but old Senzo has got a fairly large pack on his back. Senzo, you go back up to the top there. Rex is pointing out more elephants. I'm just going to look over this side. Rexon, by the way, if I haven't introduced you to him yet, is our security detail, which is to give him far less credit than he's due. He's a superb tracker as well, and spotter of animals, and he's just spotted a whole lot more from the top of the mound that Senzo is now showing you. I can't see what's going on here. Okay. Right. I'd say this is probably a herd of about 10 animals or so. Slowly moving down towards the camp, actually. We might try and follow them, but we must be very careful of the wind and the thickness of the bush here. Scarlett, you're wondering about the feeling of being so close to elephants. Well, the feeling for me is one of humility and connection. I've described this to you before, but basically, when you're this close to something like an elephant on foot, we as human beings have been very disconnected from nature, and an experience like this cracks open that protective shell that we've built around ourselves that has separated us from wilderness, and it suddenly provides this connection, this flowing in of, I suppose you could call it energy, you could call it anything you like, but of some peace of the wilderness. Now I'm just doing a little recce down the other side of the mound. You with Senzo are still sitting on the mound, and I think you've got a nice view there. Alrighty, I'm going to hand you over to Tristan now. He's at Chitwa Dam, and we'll just see where these elephants go. We'll probably follow them for a little bit longer, and we'll catch up with you again if we get a good view.
Well, we are at Chitwa Dam. It's an absolutely freezing morning this morning. As we've been driving towards Chitwa, it's just getting colder and colder. And so I don't think there's going to be too much life here. There's obviously the obligatory hippos that are around and various other animals like Egyptian geese and birds and all kinds of other things. But I don't think we're going to see too many animals coming down to actually drink. It really is cold, and particularly down here there's a bit of a wind that's blowing, and it's not very pleasant at all. The only ones that seem to be fairly happy are the hippos, this because, well, the water is probably a better temperature than the outside air. You probably find that the water is actually warmer than what it is out here, so they're taking it nice and easy and just resting and kind of doing hippo things. Most of them would have been out. Oh, gee. That hippo seemed like it got a fright from something. Maybe a terrapin bit it on the bum or something like that. That does happen as well. Or an oxpecker. The oxpeckers get involved too. But you can see they're all kind of... Oh, look at look at that yawn. It's very cute. What? When they don't have teeth like that, they've got the funniest mouths. And so you can see why they kind of... This one is making the strangest noises. And I think it doesn't want the other one to lie on it. That's probably what you'll find. There we go. So now shaking the other one loose, and there we go. Everything is all sorted again. But like I say, I mean, they would have been out during the night and they would have fed, and so now it's time for them to rest, and that's why everybody's trying to kind of jostle for a nice position. That particular area where they're sitting, there you go, you can see where that one is stood up now, is actually how shallow it really is there. It always seems as though it's the middle of the dam and that it's very deep, but it's actually not. That particular section there is almost like a little shelf, and then it drops off where that hippo is going now. It will start dropping off quite quickly, and then it gets deeper from there. But the section right up against the tree itself is actually very, very shallow, and is the perfect place for a nursery group of hippos. It's a great place for people, well, for hippos to just sit, and for younger hippos to find a place where they can at least rest and relax and take it very easy. It seems the little ones are all full of beans this morning. They're all kind of trying to one-up each other and climb on the back of each other, which will only go so far until there's a little fight that will break out. There's one on the right is also full of nonsense too. It keeps kind of bouncing around and lifting its head and snorting and doing all kinds of other things. There's a little baby hippo that's trying to climb on mom's back as well. Very active hippos this morning, so they're not too stationary. Normally hippos are just sit there and kind of don't do too much, but this lot this morning is being fairly busy. They're kind of moving around, which is quite nice. It's always good to have the hippos kind of doing their thing. But I actually haven't taken a stock take of hippos in Chitwa Dam for quite some time. It's, you always just come here and the hippos are sort of obligatory, and you kind of find them here and you don't really think about it. But there seems to be quite a number of them. Normally you find this dam, when I worked here, it kind of stayed at an average. We never used to get too much more than the sort of 14, 15 hippos. That was pretty much what we used to get all the time. But it seems as though there might actually be more than that these days. Maybe it's growing a little bit with a bit of better rains and the dam expanding slightly. There's a few more hippos that are about. You can see they're pretty much everywhere this morning. Wherever you kind of point the camera, there's another set of hippos taking it very easy. Oh, and there's some sunshine, which is glorious. It'll be nice to get a bit of sun out, because it is, like I say, quite chilly at the moment. It's not very pleasant out here. It feels almost like a winter's day rather than it does feel like the middle of summer. You wouldn't think that we're in the summer period at the moment. So there we go, that's the hippos all saying good morning. It's quite nice when you get one starting. Then if you just keep quiet, generally you'll get pretty much all of them going at it as well. They tend to be like that. As soon as one calls, the rest of the pod will also start to respond, and so you get this very cool sound. And it's one of those sounds that is synonymous with Africa, and when you come out here and if you stay anywhere near water, that is a sound that you will hear a lot of. Now there is a bird in front of me that I want to just see. Is it a three-banded plover? It looks like it might be. I'm just trying to get my binoculars out. Where's it gone? There it is. It's just in front there. No, so it is a common sandpiper that is busy moving around there. It's got little C on its wings that gives it this common name, and then little white eye stripe over the top of the sort of eye, I mean, it's not a huge white eye stripe. It's not like the wood sandpiper that we get. That's got a much bigger eyebrow stripe than what this guy's got. And actually there was a wood sandpiper around here somewhere just now. It seems to have flown off, but that one's just kind of melting in. And you've got to check at this time of the year, because you also get a green sandpiper, which is very uncommon, and so it's good to just have a look around at these little birds that are moving around. There's also all the Egyptian geese in the world over there. I just wonder if we should go and just quickly have a little look at our hardinah nest and see what's happening with them and the weavers quickly. Right. Hardinah nest was somewhere in here. The light is not great for it though, so we're going to probably struggle to actually see what's going on in here. Imagine that hardinah should be off the nest by now. Yes, it is not there anymore. So no hardinah. Weavers look as though they're all but finished with their work as well for the summer. Oh, one or two of them. There's a little black crake that flew out as well. So it seems that the weavers' nests are all but done. You see that most of them are very dried and are actually starting to break apart now. A lot of those were very well constructed, but with heavy wind like we've had recently and rain and those kind of things, these nests take a bit of a pounding, and once the weavers have left and they're not maintaining them, well, then you get a situation where they break apart like that. There's actually one nest that is active at the moment, which is the one right down at the bottom, and there it is. There we go. So that is the only one that seems to be active and still has a village weaver sitting in it at this stage. Beautiful though. Vildi, should we go around the other side, see what else there is? Maybe our open-billed stork is around. So I have learned firsthand what karma is, given that I got stuck. Very stuck in that I fell out of a car after giving Taylor trouble, but it seems as though Taylor McCurdy is going to learn the karma lesson herself this morning, because yesterday afternoon she was giving Ralph trouble for getting stuck and handed over a marshmallow award, and it sounds like Miss McCurdy has found herself stuck not even 12 hours later, and so she's going to have to now receive her marshmallow award back. Sorry, Taylor, that's not ideal. It seems to be the way. I'm not surprised, though, given the amount of rain they've had. It was a matter of time before one of them got stuck again. It's just funny that it was Taylor first before Ralph, and that she gets her little marshmallow badge straight back again. She hasn't even relinquished it for, like I say, for 12 hours. One game drive, and Taylor McCurdy's got her badge back. We're very lucky down here in the Sabi Sands is that we haven't had that much rain recently, and so it's meant that for us we haven't had to worry too much about getting stuck and those kind of things. In 2012, after those big floods that we had, this place was really very difficult to drive in. It was actually a bit of a nightmare. You got stuck everywhere. You would off-road in places that you had off-roaded for months and it was absolutely fine, and you'd go there and then all of a sudden the ground would just give way and that would be the end of that. You would just fall into this kind of sloppy mud and you would just be stuck there. And so it does happen from time to time, and it's not the best thing when you get stuck, but at least Ralph is nearby, because I'm sure Ralph is going to have something to say after his sort of ceremony yesterday of being given that award. I'm pretty sure he's going to be quite chuffed to be giving it back to Taylor today. This dam really is beautiful though when you kind of come here. The mornings the light is a little harsh from the dam wall, but it is very pretty still, especially when you've had a bit of rain, because the open area goes nice and green and the water looks quite blue in color, and so it's just a very pretty thing. Our open-billed stork is here again, so I wonder if we're going to see it hunting some more of those mussels like we had the other day. That'll be quite nice. So I think we'll stop here for a little bit and just have a little look around. There's also lots of white-faced whistling ducks, a crocodile that is disappearing very, very sharply underneath the water. The croc was just there. I don't know if it's Vlad or Boris, but one of them. And there's our white egret, our great egret as it is called these days. Our open-billed stork is off to the left-hand side there. It's just on that little point there. So that's where the open-billed is. Obviously still finding some of these mussels, otherwise it would have left by now, but that was a very cool sighting the other day. There's the Egyptian geese and there's the open-billed stork in between all of them. So still in a very similar place to where we had it the other day, still walking along the fringes looking for any of those mussels or any sort of food items that it can get to. Also go after things like crabs, and you'll find them even going after freshwater snails too. So there's a number of different food items that the open-billed will go after. What just happened there, Liam? Was it a hippo or something? A giant catfish, is that what that was? Leaping out of the water with glee. Seems like it. There was some massive splash there. What it was, I'm not quite sure. Maybe it was a bream or catfish, like VM says. Although there seems to be bubbles coming up. Look, I wonder what's going on there. See the little bubble trail? So I don't know what the bubble trail is. It must be a hippo that's busy moving along there, because it's moving quite quickly. Either way, if it is a hippo, it's got to pop up at some point. But those are all little air bubbles as it goes. So no idea what's busy running along there. It must be, like I say, a hippo that's there. It is. There we go. Hippo it is. That's busy running along the bottom and moving to the other side of the dam. Right, well, we're going to try and see what else I can find. I'm going to try and see if Hosanna's around. We did find some tracks of him from last night coming down this way, so we're going to have a little look. And while we do that, let's go back across to James Henry.
Well, breaching catfish, open-billed storks, and now the red-headed weaver, spotted once again by Senzo. We've left the elephants. They were just heading into bush, much too thick for it to be safe for us to follow them. And now we're watching this fascinating male red-headed weaver building his very unruly and scruffy nest. Now his wife, for those of you who don't know, has a yellow head, not nearly as bright as his, and he will lose that red head over the course of the coming months as we go towards winter. We're a long, long way from there, so he'll maintain it for the next probably 2 months or so. And look at the great unruly mass of grass and leaves that he's put together to live in. And if you compare that with the sort of, what would we say, not pristine, but perfectly neatly woven nests of all the other weaver species, it really is quite amazing to think that they have all evolved the ability to create those totally perfect nests, and this thing has evolved. It's the most beautiful weaver species, I think, with the exception perhaps of the forest weaver or black-backed weaver. But that it has evolved to make such a scrappy nest is absolutely astounding. Now there are more weavers here, so let's just do a little loop around, because I can hear them calling there. There's one at the top there. That looks to me like a southern masked weaver. Can you hear it going just on the end of the tree there, Senzo, on the far right hand side? Now pachyderm, yeah, that's a southern masked weaver. You want to know how many weaver species there are? Well, in this area we get the southern masked, we get the village weaver, we get the red-headed weaver, we get the thick-billed weaver from time to time, we get the red-billed buffalo weaver. That's 5 species so far. You could potentially get the southern, not the southern masked, the lesser masked weaver, and I think that's probably about it. But there are many, many more different kinds of weavers in South Africa: cape weavers, spectacled weavers, forest weavers or black-backed weavers, and a number of others. Now what I'm just hoping for while we look at the southern masked weaver there, we still got him there. Oh, he's back, yes. The red-headed weaver is back, and now gone away again, just to fetch some more grass to add to his unruly nest. And all of them, pachyderm, except for this red-headed weaver, make tremendously neat nests, perfectly designed, with gorgeously constructed entrance tunnels on some of them, especially the village or spotted-backed weaver. Let me just consult my app quickly for exactly how many weaver species there are in southern Africa. we've got 1, 2. Well, I'll just quickly read them through to you while you look at those ones. Red-billed buffalo weaver, scaly feathered weaver, used to be scaly feathered finch, sociable weaver. You do get that up here sometimes. White-browed sparrow weaver, red-headed weaver, lesser masked, spectacled, southern brown-throated, southern masked, village, cape, eastern golden, holubs, chestnut, dark-backed, or that was the forest one I told you about, and olive-headed weavers. Then, of course, you get the red-headed weaver, and that's about it, I think. Yeah. So, however many species that was. Spectacular. It really is gorgeous as the sun catches it. Oh, that's beautiful. Aubrey, you're wondering about mating dances and if any of the birds here do mating dances or courtship dances. Yes, they do. The most notable one, I suppose, would be the red crested korhaan. They do an astonishing dance around their females when they get the chance. But there are few, or there aren't any that do sort of dances like the birds of paradise do, for example. I don't know of any that would do those sorts of dances. What else would do sort of dances around each other here? It's largely the korhaan. That's the one that springs to mind. These chaps do kind of swizzling. You know, if the weavers, if they're trying to attract females into their nests, will hang on the side of them and then flick their wings up and down. I guess the woodland kingfisher does a sort of dance. It's not a very lengthy one, but they will do a dance from time to time. There he comes. He's coming back again now. He's got more stuff with him. There we are. I'm going to do what Taylor did yesterday. So naughty. I'm going to try and get a picture of him. Now what I need is for him to stick his head out. Pachyderm, a very good question. You say, why do they build their nests upside down? I think you will find that it is entirely to do with the fact that it's much more difficult for a predator to get into that nest with the entrance where it is. And I watched a red-headed weaver yesterday flying straight up into the entrance without touching the side. So it didn't land on the side and then sort of crawl into it. It flew in like a little rocket. And so I think you'll find for snakes, it's the same reason that they build it in a Ziziphus bush like this, which is going to be awkward for something like a tree snake to use. You know, the thorns protect it from above, and the odd entrance underneath makes it difficult to access for things like snakes, and perhaps also for less well-adapted birds like the parasite, or the brood parasites. Perhaps it's a little bit more difficult for the cuckoos to get in there. That was really very special indeed. We'll just give him one more chance to come back, largely because I didn't get a photograph of him. And now it's gone quiet, the light's gone. That's very unfortunate indeed. All right, well, I believe that poor old marshmallow slip in the mud McCurdy has managed to do it again. She got herself into a little bit of a pickle. Shame. Great sadness. Awful.
Yeah, James, yeah. So what happened? What happened was, you know what that forest road is like? Sliding. There's about 3 different roads because people have been stuck before. And I'm driving and I said to Archie, hold on, because the car just started sliding into another rut. And the road we were on was fine, but next to us, an old track, basically the ruts must have been about that deep, and we just went, bah! almost smacked my face on the steering wheel. We slipped into it so hard. Anyways, so the front wheels were on the ground, but the back wheels weren't touching the floor anymore. I think maybe an overlanding truck or something must have gotten stuck in there just because of the height. Anyway, so it took a whole of Ralph going, well, he just came, he was passing by, we put the tow rope on and we reversed about this much so that we were not sitting on the chassis anymore. All is good though, we're out, but I will be Taylor McMarshmallow for the rest of my life, and that's fine. So we'll have to do a handover ceremony again, and then it will come and live on Mila. I feel like it's Mila's fault because it's always been in Mila's car. Not in Mila's car, in this car, and this is the car that Jamie likes to drive as well. But there we go, that was unavoidable. No one else has actually come down that road because they saw me get stuck, and I think they know that it could quite easily happen to them as well. But we're out now, we're free, and we're exceptionally muddy because Ralph also started spinning, and then as we were standing trying to attach the tow rope, poor Archie and myself were in the firing line of the mud, so the mud was just going shoom shoom and like spraying up and kicking towards us. But I saw the red lights on Manu's camera, so I think he was recording. It was so funny. Exactly, Louise. Louise says that I was just warning people, you know, of getting stuck. Exactly. That's exactly what I was doing. You know, I'm that kind. I will always put myself, you know, in danger to make sure that everybody else is safe. Obviously, I was not in any danger at all, just in danger of getting stuck. I'm filthy, absolutely filthy now. My pants were a greyish colour. They're now black and brown, which is quite nice. They kind of actually look better now. It looks like I've done some work. I look hardcore. I hope I don't have any mud on my face. I always have mud on my face. Anyway, so that was quite fun. Woo! I think I need a trophy. Can I please have a marshmallow trophy? That's what I want, with a plaque. And I think it should be an award in my name. You know, the Taylor McMarshmallow Award, or, you know, Queen of the Mara Reserve. We need to get one for Djuma though as well. I haven't been stuck at Djuma, except when I broke down that one time in front of Chitwa Dam. James, however, did James get properly stuck? He did have to get towed out, didn't he, Louise? I do remember that. In the Molwati, if I'm not mistaken. Or did he manage to get himself unstuck? I can't remember. Anyways, we all get stuck. It's lots of fun. I enjoy it. I kind of wish all guests would get stuck on their experience, not for a whole day, but just for like half an hour or so, because it's just something that you'll never forget, and makes for great stories. Right. Anyways, so this morning as we were driving down, we could see all the balloons taking off, and Archie said it's not a very nice day for a hot air balloon, and he's quite right. There's some rain clouds now here. It's starting to drizzle again. And then my response to that was, there's no wind. They're going to have a long balloon safari. They took off an hour and 40 minutes ago, and the balloon ride is still going. Have a look at this. They are going to have the longest balloon journey ever. Now, it might not be the greatest weather, but to be up in the sky for that long was quite spectacular. Those balloon trips range anywhere from 30 minutes to just over an hour, depending on the wind. Sometimes they're done even quicker than that. But these guys are having a great time. Look at them, they're barely moving. Hopefully they just manage to avoid all the nimbostratus clouds that are around at the moment, otherwise they're going to get a little bit soggy. And there's the skyship balloons. Lots of fun. Those are the ones that Archie and Ralph went up in over Big Cat Week. Yeah, amazing. I'd love to be a hot air balloon pilot. Imagine how amazing that would be. I don't know if I'd ever get used to that sound though. It's quite loud. But very cool. And that's a scene that you often see out here in the Masai Mara and the Mara Triangle. Just reverse, make sure there's no one behind us. Now, the other thing that's going to potentially happen to myself and Ralph today is that we're going to run out of fuel. There is another fuel crisis in the triangle at the moment. But hopefully, or not hopefully, I know Serena has, so we're going to go top up in the next little bit, but we've still got quite a journey to go. Maybe we'll find that Malachite Kingfisher between here and there, so I'll keep an eye out for you. Ralph, however, is also covered in mud. His boots will probably be covered in mud and his pants will be quite wet. Let's go and hear his side of the story, and I think he's got some elephants too.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, some elephants we do have, and that's as a result of having to go over and help Taylor, because we were watching the wonderful Angama Pride, and then that SOS came through on the radio that Taylor needed help, and we sprang into action, and of course we headed on over there, only to be delighted that she was stuck. And yes, indeed, I don't know if any of you know the rules of the ocean, of when one boat asks for help and throws a rope, well, you pretty much get salvage rights. So I don't know how we're going to work this one, but a rope was thrown to me and I asked if they wanted help, and they indeed accepted. So I proceeded to tow them out, and yes, so that's the reason why we are now watching elephants and not lions. So thanks, Taylor. We'll be handing over that little badge to you a little bit later, and you can wear that with distinction. But well, we just deal with things as they come. It's a very wet and muddy morning. It's very slippery. I've nearly gotten stuck myself a couple of times, so it's not a difficult thing to do this morning. We might potentially be handing the badge back to ourselves already by the time we finish. So that's just an indication of how wet it really is. We're going to really struggle to stay unstuck today, I think. Diff lock is going to be used a lot, and it's quite important not to use too low of a range of gear when it's very soft like this, because you can get stuck with the spinning tires. But the elephants, they've all engaged their low range 4x4 and are moving through the marsh quite easily. Nobody getting stuck. Even that little baby who's looking a little bit younger than a year old. So very young, that one there. Can hardly see him above the grass. It's almost like a warthog following mom, that big bushy tail. The tail's just about as big as the baby. Look at that. You can see how his ears are crossing over each other a little bit at the top, and is very hairy. That's a very big indication of him being very young. So I would say probably 6 to 8 months, if that. It's a very young elephant, that. No more than that. Sorry, I've got a little bit of a snotty nose with it being so cold and windy when we're driving, not when we're stationary. As Taylor said, those hot air balloons have hardly moved anywhere, and I was watching one a minute ago, and it seemed like he was really hoping he could cross over the river. So he went up, and then he came down, and then he went up again, and then he came down again, and he was still on the same side of the river. And so it was quite comical. Please, folks, don't forget to get involved and send us your questions and your comments on the Twitter and YouTube handles. We'd love for you to send us your questions, whether it be about elephants or how to not get stuck in the mud, or salvage rights on vehicles. I don't know if it works the same on land as it does at sea. I don't think so. I think those rules would have changed, but at sea, that's quite an interesting old rule of the ocean, is that if you throw somebody a rope, you can have salvage rights. Cheryl, you're saying that we could always ask the Ellies to help us out if we get stuck. Well, yes, if we could get them to work along with us, I think they'd pull us out very easily. But I don't know where we would attach our tow rope. It might be on their tail, or we'd have to tie it around the front of them, but then we'd need a lot longer of a rope. Maybe one of their back legs. That might work a bit better. Yes, just over there at the back. But yeah, the power that they have, that pull us out with ease. but we'd have to get them to work along. I wonder if they'd claim salvage rights. And we were chatting last night once again about elephants and the condition of these elephants here, and how they need to eat quite a bit more of this grass than they do if they were eating very nutritious bark, for instance, from the knob thorn that we get in Djuma, all the way back in South Africa, in that northeastern section of South Africa. Here they're eating a lot of grass, so they need to eat a lot more of it. And so I'm still slowly making my way towards that hyena den and stopping for everything along the way that might be interesting or exciting. But we're going to start up again and head on that way. And while we do that, let's send you on all the way back to South Africa, as mentioned, in the Greater Kruger National Park on the northeastern section of South Africa, and Tristan with a young herd.
I do have a young bird, so it is a juvenile black-crowned night heron. So the night herons that were behind Chitwa Dam Wall, we suspected that they had a nest here and that they had bred, and there is the evidence of it. So that is a little young one that is tucked up in the branches, and so Hosanna did not get to the nest. I thought at one point Hosanna might have got to the nest because he was sniffing around here for a few days, and Tumbo was also around, but it seems as though the little chick has managed to survive and is now just sitting just in the little shady part of a tree. And it looks very different to the adult. It doesn't look in any way the same. You can see those white spots that come down the wings and the streaky sort of chest area, and that orange eye with the beak that is still changing color a little bit. The beak has got that sort of yellow-black appearance to it. It eventually will go completely black, so it'll go in so almost like a steel kind of color, and the eye itself will start to darken as well. So when they're very young, their eye is still a sort of yellow color, and then it starts to go that more orangey red color as they get a little bit older. But very cool to see. It's not something that we see often, and I don't personally have not seen a juvenile black-crowned night heron in many years, so it's a very cool bird to have around. Just the one at this stage that I can see. I don't see the adults around either. They seem to be camouflaged, as well as what the little one is. You can see, look at that camouflage. Isn't that incredible? It's very cool to see. So it's obviously just this is its area that it sleeps in. I'm sure the adults are around here somewhere as well. There we go. Cool. Now we're going to try and see what else we can find. We came behind here in the hope that Hosanna was here because we heard some guinea fowls alarm calling. So, sorry Lou, if you can just repeat that for me. You just broke up a little bit. I don't know if Lou can hear me anymore, but... Starlight Ann. So you say 141 on your Djuma sunrise bird list. So you see you have not only a bird list, but a sunrise and sunset bird list, and that is number 141. Well, that is very good. I'm glad that you have got both, and it's nice to know. I wonder which one has more. Is it the sunrise or the sunset list that has got more birds on it? Because it would be interesting to know whether mornings or afternoons is better for birding in this area. Now this is a section that sometimes houses some interesting little birds as well. That you go slowly through here, you can sometimes see some cool little things. I've had pygmy kingfishers in here, malachite kingfishers, and we've had the greater painted snipe in here. Be nice if we had a little spotted cat as well. I'm just going to stop here because this is a good place to stop and just scan around in these little reeded sections. All of these little reeds sometimes can house small little wading birds that kind of are pecking around. Although the water quality doesn't look very good here at the moment, even though we've had a bit of rain, it doesn't look great, so maybe that's why there's not too many birds about. But it's always a good place to, you can see the algae is thick and bubbly and, well, not very pleasant, is it? Wouldn't want to get stuck in that, that's for sure. So we're going to try and not do that. Let's carry on though, Vildy. Maybe there's a leopard lurking somewhere in here. There's a little rocky kind of in-cut here that we can have a look up. I've always thought this would be a really great place for a den site, so secretly I've been trying to hope that Kuchava is going to den in this area and maybe use this little drainage section as a den kind of position. Like I say, there's a little rocky sort of outcrop that just goes out to my right. Now, VM, are you going to be alright there? So just going to make sure that we lift this up for VM, that we don't damage the camera in any way. There we go. So VM is through. We good there, Vildy? Cool. So if you look up there through that way, that is where the rocks are. So inside there are quite a number of different little rocks and tangled sort of areas. Now Jared from Final Control, so Jared, for all of you that don't know, is our network wizard, as he likes to describe himself. He's not a network engineer, he's a network wizard apparently. And Jared wants to know, would I drink this water? Because I'm sure this stems from a conversation that we had last night about Steph and all the water that he's drunk from various different places through the Djuma area, namely elephant dung and then just muddy wallows. And so Jared, no, I would not drink this water at all. And Alicia, you're wondering if Steph would drink the water as well. So Alicia is also in Final Control. I would imagine Steph won't drink this water, and I will have to tell you all later why I don't think so, but I certainly would not be touching this water if you paid me. You could even boil it and filter it, and I still wouldn't be doing it, because I'm pretty sure that there is some runoff from the drains of Chitwa Lodge, and well, if you want to drink other people's waste, well then you're more than welcome to. I'm certainly not going to be partaking in that at all. So that is the reason why I'm pretty sure Steph won't drink it either. It is not exactly fit for human consumption, I don't think. Anyway, you never know, maybe Steph would. I'll have to ask him. Maybe we'll get a cup of it for him and he can then decide whether he wants to or not. I certainly would hazard a guess that he won't be wanting to do any of that. There's always just such a nice drive through here, even if you don't see anything and we don't have too many sort of sightings of animals or anything like that. It's just pleasant. It's just kind of slowly sort of moving through, and it's a beautiful section. There's lots of nice trees, and driving always in a riverbed. There's something about driving in a riverbed that always makes things that much better. I don't know why it is. It's just I find it nice to drive in riverbeds. There's another little rocky section as well that could be a nice place for a little den site. Pretty sure a cub could get into some of those areas that many other animals wouldn't be able to. So very pretty in here. Alas though, today no leopard, which is okay. You sometimes have to kind of strike out and not get anything, and to make you appreciate when you do get things inside.